Our next segment is on the future of learning. This is something that is a channel that we have already launched, and we're going out there and taking it to more and more people. And Bernard West, who's a dear friend and advisor to the school that is, and we've thought this thing through ourselves and we've created this. Let's share some of the stuff that we have actually done, and we take it from there. Learning. Bernard, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. And you've been one of the creators and visualizers of this idea. And beyond that, we have a very, very special honor and privilege to welcome Jenny Young. Jenny is from China, but she's not from China. She's actually from the whole world. She's been everywhere. She's done everything. And but one of the key things that she works on is, and has a passion for, is education and learning and ongoing sustainable learning and development. So I thought that while she's in the country, it would be a great privilege to have you on board. So Jenny, thank you very much. Thank you. So two great people. Bernard, may I just start with you? Sure. and sort of say, well, what inspired you in terms of creating the kind of future of learning concept that we were working together? What was that special source for you?
Well, I think the original idea is that there's so many schools and learning activities that are in boxes and everyone's isolated doing their own thing. The thought of we could create a platform where people could come together, work together, share ideas, share mistakes so that we don't repeat the same mistakes and be able to grow and make it a better education and learning environment. So that was it.
Jenny, you work with the United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals, you think in 1 billion kids at a time. What are the key drivers that you see at this moment in time in terms of learning challenges, especially for the developing world? What sort of things do we need to do to get that developing world in a much, much more progressive way to address the future?
I'm actually trying to work very hard on replicable models of schools, replicable models of educational tools, because I think what we are really short of is the two extreme of talent in education. If we talk about the average education, I think the usual system is there, the government is taking care of it, the infrastructure, I think is generally there. But what that pushed the world is some extremes like gifted kids, or some extreme of people that are so determined for a certain mission, such as I must go for a Nobel Prize. So it is these people that push the world that change. If you remember, Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard, and we have internet today. So the similar thing everywhere. So there has to be some kind of incubator that encourage people that really want to dream and dream big, so that the world is moving for a positive change.
Because in the next 4, 5, 10 years maximum, the balance of the 4 billion people who are not connected will be connected. So the next genius, the next Einstein, the next Nobel Peace Prize winner in mathematics and economics will come from Africa or China or Indonesia or someplace like that, because they are sort of hyper-connected. How are we coping with that hyper-connectivity in our education and learning environments? Bernard, your thoughts, and then Jenny can follow.
I think it's happening in a number of ways. I mean, there's the projects that Jenny's been talking about where there's traditional, you just give a small community tools. They use these tools to access content, people, and ideas, and they kind of learn at their own pace, or maybe under the guidance of a teacher over the internet or through workshops. And then it's also taking traditional schools that want access to tools or access to technology, and you integrate it in the program or in the after-school environment. so that people aren't just doing traditional schooling, but getting exposed to these types of learning.
Okay. Let's move forward in terms of the kind of education we're doing. I mean, I love this because it's the sort of thing we encounter all the time. Everybody knows left and right side of the brain. He runs 2 great schools, he's an advisor to 2 great schools. I mean, most of the time, 80% of the time, you're just teaching them that, right? Maths and day-to-day stuff and boring
not
things.
in our schools. Not in our schools at all.
And
not at all.
Okay, fine.
Not at all.
But generally in education systems out there at this point in time, how are we coping with that? Because robots are going to take that side. This is the humanities side. How are we managing that?
I think a good education is a balance of both. And no longer do you find good schools telling children, you should be a scientist, or you should just be an artist, or you should have this job, particularly young school-age children. You want them to develop their talents on both sides of the brains. And a school that tries to track someone sooner to be just a coder or just to go to art school is really misleading the student and the family. And oftentimes it's families misleading the student, not the schools, and the schools are responding to the family's desire for the kind of job they want their children to have.
Or the university they want their kids to go
Absolutely.
to. That's
Absolutely.
the other one.
Absolutely.
The other motivator. Jenny, what are your thoughts on this?
I believe the parents and teachers nowadays are so important in terms of how they observe the children when they grow. And similarly, when you're at work, if you work for a good company, your supervisor will actually be very good mentors that know how to identify who would be the people that I want to develop down the road. So I think it's very much not only the children or a system, it's the quality of teachers or supervisors we have in the whole educational system.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I encounter when I go out there is this, talent. The war for talent is one of the most important things in the world today to really move us forward. However, there are senior managers here who have to make these decisions to hire people for jobs that don't exist and for skills they don't know yet. So how do you guys train people for certain skills for jobs that don't exist? I mean, this doesn't quite make sense to me. So how do we bridge this? Bernard, you get the easy questions.
Yeah, so it's very easy. Of course, the work that we're talking about, I'm not in the skills training business necessarily, but my view on the marketplace is you have to teach people to be flexible, to be able to learn. And in most cases now, an engineer who graduates or a coder who graduates isn't automatically employable. And what they may be doing for the first 6 months is not what they're going to be doing 18 months later. So to be prepared to do one job for 5 years or 10 years no longer exists, because the skills required for that job change all the time.
What are your thoughts on this, Jenny? Because this thing is changing so much. How do we select people for jobs that we're going to expect in the future for skills we don't know yet?
I believe virtual reality is going to help substantially because seeing is believing. Doesn't matter how smart or dumb a kid is or an employee is. You listen to whatever somebody said and you make your own judgment. Nothing makes better when you completely nowadays have a whole virtual reality goggle in front of you, that the best essence of everything is in there for you to feel and explore. And once you're into it, you believe in what is being shown. And I think the teachers nowadays is going to guide us through the process, rather than expecting every single teacher really have been out there to mass knowing how to teach a science class. But the kids will be able to see mass on screen and understand 90%, 100% of what the content could be. So the teachers are really there to guide you when you grow, rather than becoming, in the past, a teacher and a textbook.
You do a lot of work in technology and forward-looking technology. Can you share that immersive experience for a future child, or a current child almost? And what will the kids in this room, people who have kids here, what can they experience in the next 2-3 years, particularly working with you?
I believe allowing children to be close to technology. A lot of people would believe, I don't want him, he's playing all the time, he's looking at the magazine, he's playing with guns. When my kid grew up, I didn't mind him liking guns. I bring him to an old magazine store and buy as many guns as you want in those magazines, because I know he's going to pick up a lot of vocabulary, a lot of basic English language just from those old magazines. It doesn't have to be a current issue. So after a little while, he get bored, but he will move on to something else. So I think that's where we have to allow children to be in the area of what they like. They have a passion for it. You don't even need to encourage them. They would just read and work on it constantly, and you see their interest. So exposing them to a variety of things that could possibly interest them, I think is our first job.
Looking at some of the technologies that you, and we'll talk about in a second, and certainly I know that Bernard is very close to virtual reality, augmented reality. You speak about holoportation. We have a global grid of Wi-Fi that will be out there. There's democratization of information and content. In this environment, should our education system be just blown up, destroyed as it exists today, and literally, it'll be education 2.0? Sir, should we destroy the education system as it exists?
Education is about choice,
Yeah.
and it depends on where you are as a person, a student, a family, or geography. And in some cases, there are some schools that just shouldn't exist. But I think we still need institutions, and I think there's still some tradition that's important. And I'm not as enamored or crazy about technology as my friend is here. I think the children should play in the woods. They should climb. They should do art. We shouldn't chase them we shouldn't pull technology away from them. But if you look at Bill Gates, and you look at Jack Ma, and you look at people who are working with technology all the time, and look at how they're taking care of their children, they're not loading them with iPads and computers and software. They're not doing coding classes 10 days out of the month, or 30 hours of code. They're enjoying life. They're playing. I mean, they're exposed to coding. They have an iPad. They watch a movie. They may go to a shooting range and learn how to shoot a gun or something, or do paintball. But it's about that balance. And if children are able to do that, it may be something that we don't even know. Maybe it's not 5 years. It won't be virtual reality or a different version of it. So there's no reason to be completely consumed.
Moving forward, one of my difficult areas is that education is really addressing two very big issues, which is our verbal skills and our numerical skills, and now a little bit of our emotional skills.
Yes.
I'd like to go beyond, and I'd like to talk about all our multiple intelligences that are around us, and how do we develop those. And this is one of the charts that I have, which talks also about spatial intelligence, about social intelligence, our physical intelligence, and things that we can connect with. This is all of the skills that we need to have. And in the world of artificial intelligence, we actually need to be more intelligent to be able to keep our lead. So in this world, how is the education and learning system, the future of learning, addressing something like this? You've seen this one before, Brennan. So
I have.
yeah.
I remember you drew it in my office one day.
Ethical intelligence, and the spiritual aspect, creative intelligence, and all of the elements that we have in there, because this is a mind map from Tony Buzan, who's the creator of mind mapping, and this is one of his primary things, is that we have forgotten how to use all our intelligences. We only use 2, 3, 4 of them, and we need to find ways to do that. So how should our education system, whether it's AR and VR, whether it's climbing trees and falling off
So I think
in the river?
The first thing, we can't put it all on the educational system. We can't put it on schools and institutions. There are a number of constituents. It's family, it's community. Schools are a factor in it. And you won't get all of these things in one school in 1 year or in one class. I think we should be aware of these things.
Our education system currently is from 4 to 24. They pack everything in there. Now we have long lifespans. We will live to 100 to 120 years. So after 24, you've got another 80 to 100 years of work and life. Shouldn't we just change this thing, and our learning should be from 4 to 84 and take a degree every 10 years or something like that? And I had a bunch of really, really cool degrees earlier on. Isn't it time that we re-look at this whole thing?
I think disruptive innovation is the term. I learned to see that it's possible for what you talk about from 4 to 84, because it takes a more intelligent parent to be able to guide the first couple of years for what school they put to. It also costs a lot of more money to be able to expose them everywhere you want them to go to, everything that you want them to try. So education, unfortunately, is still very different kind of class, different kind of specialty, different kind of races. I think these contain the context of what children will be exposed. We are trying to move everyone on the same level learning field so that they all will become a global citizens. But it's very hard to expect every parent to think the same way. Every parent come from a different background. So therefore, I believe there is still a very strong demand of quality, central, free education that is so entertaining and so interesting that we don't find the kids only playing video games, but they just really like certain programs that they learn without realizing that they're learning.
Exactly.
So rather than we think they're addicted to certain, we want them to be addicted to something they're learning very well.
Yep.
I have an unfair advantage because I know something about Jenny's life in terms of her learning and development. So with your permission, at one stage in her life she had a bit of a gap in her between her careers, and she had and in that gap she went to Harvard, she did a second degree, she did a third one, she's got 5. And she's sort of, overloaded. and I'm thinking to myself, what a wonderful experience. So, shouldn't we be encouraging people at some stage in their lives to sort of really go out there and just go out there and on a learning spree and just take a 2-year sabbatical, 3-year sabbatical and just learn. What are your thoughts on sabbaticals?
I think it's important. I did the same for 2 years and traveled the world, and I always encourage people to do it. I think it's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is some of the sort of things that we're going to be having in the future, and this is one of our last slides on this. But leaving this as a backdrop, we'll have science, we'll have technology, we'll have humanity, and all of these things are going to come together as a centaur. Yeah, absolutely. So, as a final comment, Jenny, I know you work with the UN and Sustainable Development Goals, and one of your dreams is to reach billions of people. Would you like to share some of that with us so that we can inspire a whole group of people that are here?
Yes, I actually started with being a Red Cross since I was 13, and because I live in Hong Kong, so I get to learn many more languages out of my own interest. And because I have traveled a lot, live in many countries, somehow I feel that my career destination is UN, because it's broad enough. Although lately I work closely with European Union, I work with Arab League, but I think the quality of UN is what I still believe in. Being a super large NGO, I wouldn't use the term NGO. UN is a non-profit organization. It is a very, very big organization. So I only started off being a very small foundation, being a very small NGO that I realized I learn faster than I can act. So after I attend many, many meetings and what I could observe to be the pros and cons of what is inside UN and many systems, I decided to go back to my very first job, which was banking, because I figure money seems to be still the king to solve a lot of problems. So if I have to help UN, I don't want to go around and ask people to please donate a little here and there. And if I hear that UN is a non-profit, that we are short of money to make everything happen to be for more people, so I decided to change my mind that I should work for people that fund UN rather than just UN, so that we get them with big checks, because I know people in UN are really, really good-hearted, and everybody's trying very hard. So I think money talks. So I decided to change my work so that I start working on family offices, I start working on financing for sustainable development goals, so that using money, we buy the best talent and we develop the best talent.
Sure.
And that's my new career ambition.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Bernard, what is your dream? I mean, I look like a genie, and if you ask me for one wish, I can't give you three. What would that be? What's your dream in terms of learning and development of people?
Look, I think it's really just access to a quality, well-rounded education, which most people don't really have. And I think that's it. And using technology to increase access, using large capital to build institutions in places. I mean, for me, that's my dream.
Great. Jenny, thank you very much indeed. Bernard, very grateful for your thoughts, and big hand for two amazing people.
Thank you.